it's set at 23, 24 and the thing is coughing. Mentioned at a gun at King Island, Melbourne. That strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It is hovering and it is not an aircraft.
What you've just heard was a recreation of the final words spoken by pilot Fred Valentich before his plane disappeared over Bass Strait. Even though it's been 19 years since Fred disappeared, the mystery surrounding what happened to him still hasn't faded. He just vanished without trace, and his family believed he was taken by an unidentified flying object. Recent years has been an explosion of UFO sightings in Australia. Whenever you mention the topic, people seem to have their own theories and opinions, or even their own stories.
It was orange like a sunset, and it was just spanning across the road.
I can't move, man.
Moving forward in time through the experience.
Then this tall, dark being just appeared in front of the craft. And
I mean, it looks like a traditional, every day of the week, comic book flying saucer.
They had large almond-shaped eyes, small bodies, legs and arms, and sort of grey in appearance.
I think it's the first time in my life that I could identify of anybody telling me that they were scared they were going to die.
Saying that this thing was only just down the bottom of his street. He could see that it was out in the water, it was sucking up water.
Yeah, I believe it's a UFO.
There are between 400 and 500 reports a month of UFOs in this country. Now, obviously, a lot of them can be explained, but about 10% prove to be true mysteries. Tonight you'll hear from people who've had these experiences. They're just normal Australians who can't explain what they saw.
I was travelling from Sydney in a northerly direction toward Gosford along this particular road here, the Pacific Highway, and it was quiet. There wasn't a lot of traffic. It was early Christmas morning, and I was just gazing out of the front window of the car, and I saw approximately half a kilometre away a bright silver metallic object crossing from south to north.
I stood here not believing my eyes, because where I sit I can see the open water, and I just couldn't believe that this thing could appear on the water. It was some kind of craft, but it was completely surrounded in lights underneath and all around, and it just looked like a carousel. It wasn't anything flat.
Around holiday time, the local police know they'll be busy. But on this New Year's Eve, the calls weren't what they expected.
All people that I spoke to had exactly the same thing to say. There was no variance whatsoever in the object that was sighted. It was a huge chrome, very shiny object in the shape of a ball. At the bottom of the ball was a number of huge white lights. This object looked like it was sucking up water. Some calls were quite frightful in their voice. You could actually hear the fear, and in the background especially, the fear of people and of course animals and things at the time that were experiencing this phenomena.
We're looking out above this headland here, and we're watching a bright light move in a strange fashion that you'll never see, or we never saw anyway. It was moving quickly and moved, for instance, in a zigzag fashion. We were watching it for 10 to 15 minutes, move in this direction north, and we just saw this bright light, 15, 20 metres above our car. Just a bright light, emanating light towards our car. It was just awesome.
All of a sudden I saw these lights come out of the water, like a cylinder, and flash, and the top of the water was all lit up. And as that light was up, I could hear the rushing of water movement of water, and then the water being raised up, and then shortly after, down comes the water on top of the lake.
I noticed this rather bright light that seemed to be on the right-hand side of the car, and it seemed to be following us for quite a while. And then all of a sudden it turned and went at a right angle right across the expressway in front of the car. It was large, round, and it seemed to have a stream of sparks flying out the back of it. I don't know what it was, but it was most peculiar.
After the initial New Year's Eve reports to police, the local Sun Weekly newspaper got hold of the story.
There were hundreds more people at home that obviously thought they'd seen something quite out of the ordinary, but were too scared maybe to come forward and actually say that they'd seen something. Our office, the day the report hit the streets, was amazing. We had caller after caller saying they'd seen the same thing.
A lot of the witnesses were retired academics, some were policemen, nurses, school teachers, Sunday school teachers, lawyers, business people, some of the leading business people in the area. They were all people that had everything to lose and nothing to gain by even coming forward and making a report. All the people who actually saw it hovering over the water described these 4 or 5 shafts of bright white light coming down to the water and literally penetrating the water rather than reflecting off it. We also had descriptions of the water seething underneath it. Some people said it frothed, some people said it foamed, some people said it was steaming up.
Overall, I'd imagine there'd be probably 3 dozen telephone calls on the night.
Well, please, Sergeant Wenning. In particular, Sergeant Wenning remembers one very distressed caller.
He told me he had been woken up from a deep sleep with thunderous noise and bright lights, dogs barking. His children had come into his bedroom screaming. He was saying that this thing was only just down the bottom of his street. He could see it was out in the water, it was sucking up water. The sound was like a million hummingbees. He didn't know what was going on.
We investigated officially with the local aircraft, aerodromes, with the Air Force, with air traffic control, and again could come up with no explanation.
While everyone can describe what they saw, no one seems to have the answer to exactly what it was or where it came from.
It was moving in waves in the sky, which could only be described as a UFO.
When you see something like this, there's a sure knowledge that you're looking at something that is beyond your experience. I'm
not young, and people might think, oh, you're a bit strange, seeing things and had imagination. No, I've got imagination, but not like that. Not when I see something that I see. I know I saw it.
At first I thought, well, maybe it's some type of meteorite, but it was too large, it was travelling too slow, and turned a right angle, which I know meteorites aren't inclined to do.
I was just bewildered how something could appear and disappear in the thin air practically.
Well, I honestly don't know what they saw. We've gone right through all the realm of possible explanations, which leaves it as what a UFO truly is, a flying object which we cannot identify by conventional means.
There's a saying that seeing is believing, and it certainly applies to UFOs. The most intriguing personal accounts come from people with no real interest or belief, until it happens to them.
Before this happened to me, I can be honest, I could say that I was in that category of being naive. I didn't believe it. I didn't really believe it, because I had to see, it's like I would have to see it with my own eyes.
Grace's experience starts in the early hours of the morning travelling home with 3 girlfriends. Victoria, who can't be identified, was one of the women in the back seat.
It's when I got a bit further down the hill that I noticed on the right-hand side of me some long, oblong-shaped lights. I didn't know what they were. I mean, I only sort of caught a glimpse of a bright orange light sort of shining through. As I got down the hillside and started to come around the corner by this little hotel that takes us back through the back roads towards the freeway, one of the girls in the back noticed a very bright white light with a type of blue haze around it. When the girls were sort of saying, oh, maybe, you know, like it's a UFO, and, you know, was sort of like, just laughed it off and said, don't be so ridiculous.
The women continue their trip, but further down the road, more lights appeared.
I heard Victoria and one of the other girls in the back there, they were commenting on something that was behind us. They actually thought somebody was coming up behind us, like a truck or something, because it was moving fairly fast and very bright. It was just such a bright as blinding light. It was orange like a sunset, and it was just spanning across the road.
I got really scared, and I said to Grace, quick, just step on it. Because I knew there was a town just a kilometre up the road.
As we got closer into the middle of this car parking area and looked up, we could see this ship. Well, that's what you'd have to call it, because it was, you know, definitely not an aeroplane, and it was something from definitely not this world, that's for sure.
It sort of moved across from this direction straight over the top of us. Sort of disappeared into a gully where we lost sight of it.
We were scared for our safety. I mean, I've got to be honest, I think it's the first time in my life that I could identify with anybody telling me that they were scared they were going to die. Because I was. When I got to the opening of the drive here, the other girls noticed that there was something else up, some activity up there in the sky. We were still scared. We didn't know what they were either. They seemed to be moving in a direction that this other craft had gone over and gone down.
So the first thing you think of, just pull someone's driveway.
And as I pulled in, the light was so blinding, it actually was hurting our eyes to look at it. Then I noticed a figure coming. It wasn't a human, it definitely was no human, that's for sure. I felt threatened by it, I felt really, really threatened by it. That was the closest thing I've ever experienced, the thought of actually, you know, coming close to death, I suppose, which sounds pretty silly, but the fear I had was like that, like I wasn't going to see my family again. And the weird thing is that it's not the normal thing to talk about and for people to accept. But, you know, it's been 3 years now, and I still feel very distressed by it.
In the weeks, I felt a lot of doubt with what happened to Grace. I didn't believe it, truly believed it, because I hadn't experienced anything like that myself. So I didn't show it either. I mean, I didn't show that I didn't believe it, because I think it was important that I looked like I was supporting her, so that otherwise, you know, she might go sort of, you know, off the rails if she didn't feel she had some support from her husband.
But 2 weeks later, those doubts disappeared.
What's work?
Late one night, they were both woken by their distressed 15-year-old son.
He was dead set that he had presence in his room. You know, there was somebody in his room. And one thing that he kept saying at that time was that, can you hear that sound? And he kept pointing up to the ceiling. And we could hear this low drone sound. I knew then I'd heard that sound before. We got back into bed and I was laying there. And I thought, do I lie here and just let this thing go through and just, you know, try and wipe it off as another bad experience, or do I actually get up and look, and if it is what I think it is, then maybe my husband will be able to see for the first time and he will believe.
I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. When you see an object that's just sort of floating through the air, like at slow pace, and you think to yourself, oh my God, it struck me as, you know, being awesome. It's just something unbelievable.
It was a relief that he was able to see this thing, and all I kept saying was that was the thing that was there the night when I was with the others.
certainly by its nature, by the way, characteristics of the way it just hovered across the house at a slow pace. Yeah, no, nothing man-made. Not from this country, not from this earth, I should say.
Even though Grace and her husband ended up experiencing the same craft, their ways of coping with it differ.
You either accept it or you don't accept it, and I tend to say now, after I've seen it with my own eyes, I accept it, but I don't, you know, harp on about it and talk about it, and if it's just one of those things you try and leave as a part of your life that's happened, and let's get on with things, let's move on from here, you see. And that's how I sort of try and treat it, rather than try and find an explanation as to what it is.
Yeah, I really don't have a theory yet. It's basically, it's more the fear. Again, I don't know why, because I'm still here and I am healthy, you know, I mean, but the fact is it's just a worry because you don't know. You just don't know.
What do you reckon it is?
Got no idea.
Images of UFOs caught on video over the years tend to raise more questions than they answer.
They are visitors. Yeah? Yes, yes. UFO.
Working out whether there is something out there has intrigued researchers for years.
There's no doubt that there is a physical dimension to this UFO phenomenon, and it appears to involve some form of technology, and many cases certainly suggest that we're dealing with an exotic technology that might be something certainly foreign to our environment.
When a Melbourne photographer saw images like these, he was interested enough to go on standby to try and capture on film whatever was buzzing the sky over Narre Warren in June 1996.
I got the phone call and I was told that the lights were spinning across the tree line over the homes. What I did was put the camera onto the object, allowing it just to come into frame, hit the shutter, count to 20, stop, wind, move the camera to the next part of the frame, start the shot, count to 20, let it go, and so forth. The first night, the result of the photographs showed just light trails of this object going across over the tree line. The second night, with higher speed film and the higher magnification lens, is where we actually captured the shot of the disc. This thing was, the only way to explain it was moving across the air like ice on a hot plate, very, very smooth.
Later in the program, Doug's photos will be studied by an independent expert.
Well, it was flying, it's unidentified, and it was definitely an object. What it will be, and I hope with the analysis will prove me right. But yeah, I believe it's a UFO.
In the UFO community, the term hypnotherapy is like a buzzword. It's the thing to try if you feel you have secrets of the past to unlock. While mainstream medicine doesn't necessarily recognise it, people who've had UFO encounters believe it helps.
Victor Pufulescu believes he started having alien encounters as a teenager back in his native Romania. He's turned to hypnotherapy to try and find out exactly what happened.
It's like being a good soldier. You just obey orders. This is actually probably the best description of hypnosis process.
Loosen limb, deeper sleep. Loosen limb, heavier and heavier. Not a worry, not a care. Deeper, deeper, and deeper. Hypnotherapy is a way of allowing us to get into the subconscious mind. The intellectual mind tends to want to control and criticise everything. It's the censor of stuff it doesn't even know about that was in there before we were 3 years old. So by sort of relaxing and sliding across the conscious mind, if you like, we can sort of delve into the unconscious, or to allow what's in the unconscious to find its way out.
Oh, I can't move, Frank.
Uh-huh.
The pressure is increasing. I can't move. The chest, my arms,
uh-huh,
my legs.
There's a thing about hypnotherapy that very often the subject will want to please the hypnotist. So you have to look at that, but the thing is that you can see that when a person is reliving an experience, that it's pretty easy to see whether that's faked or not. Moving forward in time.
My legs.
Moving forward
My
in
feet.
time. Moving forward in time through the experience.
The pain is inside of my elbow. Thanks.
Who are you saying thanks to?
Them.
Can you ask them what they're doing?
No. It's a test.
That's a test.
I just know it's a test. They keep me telling be calm.
They're telling you to be calm?
Yeah.
Very often the people are quite disturbed about dreams they're having or things they've imagined happen to them. And they often come out of this saying, I'm pleased I'm not crazy, or I'm not mad, or I'm not imagining this.
It does give you some answers, but also creates thousands more. And this is probably the trickiest part. I'm never happy with the answer which I'm getting, and I want more and more and more.
Just relaxing as much as you can with every breath. Just feeling a sense of calm. From 1992, there was a very strong correlation with awakening psychically and with my healing work to having these experiences.
Elizabeth Robinson is a spiritual healer and therapist who says she's been having extraterrestrial experiences since childhood, but is only now starting to accept them.
I mean, when they started with me, I thought, my God, this is bizarre. You know, this is crazy. This is in the realm of science fiction. But I know now I've had to work through that and struggle with it, and I've denied it like hell for 5 years. And I can't deny it anymore.
Elizabeth says she started seeing creatures like these around her home in Perth in 1992.
There were 3 beings standing there. They had large shaped heads, bigger at the top to chin at the bottom, large almond-shaped eyes, small bodies, legs and arms, and sort of grey in appearance. But they looked at me with a sense of intent and intelligence.
Soon after, Elizabeth's daughter talked of being visited by a lady during the night. Elizabeth believes it was one of the same beings.
And I looked down on the desk, and here was a drawing of this being, this same being that I had seen. And I said to Jessica, who did that? Because I knew that at 2.5, her drawings were scribble drawings. And she said, oh, that's the lady. I tried to rationalise it, but I knew that I wasn't imagining this stuff. You know, there was something in me that told me that there was more to these experiences.
They're looking at me again.
Elizabeth then turned to hypnotherapy to try and uncover what she couldn't understand. This session was recorded last year with visiting American UFO researcher John Carpenter.
I don't want to give the baby up.
What seems to have come up in hypnosis is that I've had children taken from me, babies taken from me that are growing up on crafts. And this is just absolutely bizarre, you know, talking about this. I mean, you talk about this, but, you know, at first you struggle with it. I mean, you can't fully comprehend this, but what I could comprehend was the emotion around it.
I know what they're doing. They say it's time. They tell me with their mind.
The emotions are so real, they're raw, you know, the grief is there, the terror is something like I've never felt before.
They're just doing what they're doing.
What are they doing?
They're getting the equipment ready.
Part of the reason why they're involved here on Earth is to help us awaken, but there seems to be some sort of reciprocal type of arrangement whereby, you know, they're coming to Earth and they're creating a new race of beings, or creating some sort of hybrid race of beings.
I used to think, okay, I'm dreaming, until I used to be able to get up, go to the bathroom, make a cup of tea, come back, sit down, they'd still be waiting for me. And I think, oh.
Elizabeth and colleague Mary Rodwell now run a support group in Perth for people who've had alien experiences.
And this is what I mean, my business is emotional trauma. That's why I'm here. And I won't deal with fantasy. I can't deal with fantasy. So it's about emotional trauma. These people are stressed quite desperately with fear and anxiety about a lot of things that they only have a vague idea often about, but often is because they've remembered being taken.
I went 3 months with barely any sleep. If you remember, I told you about 11 or 12 weeks, barely any sleep.
Most of them just want to live an ordinary life. They don't want this to happen. So for them to have the chance to at least talk about it and release all the anxiety and fear around that as much as they can around talking about it, it seems that through that there is real healing.
For me, I became very frightened that I would be labelled crazy or, you know, hallucinate, whatever it was, and that I couldn't have somebody to relate this experience to that would honour my experience. Have either
Elizabeth has always kept journals about her experiences, which she is now using to write a book.
I saw a grey being appear, white-grey colour. In the dream, I was searching for my son, even though the child dream of trying to run away from several grey beings, but as fast as I ran or wherever I really don't expect someone to be able to say, absolutely, you know, this is real, because, you know, you always doubt yourself, but you know that it's real, and you have to come to some point and stop denying it, and that's what I'm starting to do.
Sorting out the facts surrounding UFOs can be tough, unless of course there's something that science can put to the test.
Earlier in the program we saw photographs taken by Doug Page. The time exposures show what Doug believes is a UFO hovering near his home in 1996.
Now, has this been observed by other people as well?
Practically all of Narre Warren.
Okay, so that was seen, but not as a streak, because this is a time exposure. So it was simply an object of some sort traveling in somewhat of a line, but as you can see, it goes up and down here. This type of negative sleeve will take...
The professor would like to examine the negatives that come before and after the pictures in question.
Explain to me why...
But Doug has used the ends of rolls of film and discarded the shots he felt didn't work.
Now, when the films were actually ready for handling, I'd lay them out and I went through them and I go with the scissors and I just go cut, cut, into the bin, cut, cut, put it there, and that's what I did.
Okay.
After examining the camera the shots were taken with and checking density readings on the negatives, the next step is to enhance the images on the computer.
I don't rely on computers for analysis. They're a bit of a tool. They sometimes let us see things a little bit better, but to actually definitively say that a particular thing is something, I stay away from that.
That's right.
How did you focus the camera?
Just on infinity.
Okay, so if you focused on infinity, technically the tower should be sharper in focus than the tree.
Should be, shouldn't it? Mm-hmm. But it's not.
Interesting question, isn't it?
It's a good one. The only trouble is there's no sort of guarantee, of course, in the darkness that it hasn't moved off set either, but I had that set for infinity.
Okay.
With some of the technical questions out of the way, it becomes an issue of individual perception.
Very specific things here. I see a disc-shaped object. I see something with a rim. Okay, there is definitely a lip. There are what appears to be lights. There's big, there's another small one in between, another one. So we've got something that is geometrically laid out. You can see a texture, and you can see definitely on the dark side of it something. So something's in shadow. I mean, it looks like a traditional, every day of the week, comic book flying saucer.
My first impression of this when I saw it, again, was a trumpet, a circular object here, that we have a bell shape that comes out, like so, This is unexplained optical either artifact, phenomena,
or reality,
or could be could be an object, but it is totally undefinable.
And of technical concern is the fact that the start of the time exposure is more in focus than the end shape.
Does it make any sense to you that if this was moving and it's decelerating, would that have a bearing on the shape of the line? If it was slowing? Because
no, it shouldn't. It should be exactly the same sharpness.
Despite question marks over issues like that, the professor is able to reach some conclusions.
I don't believe that it's been faked. I think it is probably something that was traveling through the air. What it would be, I wouldn't know, and there's no indication from the photographs that would give me any clue.
There are points there that I haven't considered, such as the object, could well be a phenomenon that that I've never heard of. So I mean, we've got to keep an open mind.
I don't know, maybe between 6 and 8, I would assume.
Okay. They were fairly intense, or?
Yeah, they were very close together as well.
Right, okay.
4 years ago, Kelly Carr was a mother and housewife with no interest in spaceships or aliens. Now she's using technology to reconstruct images of her own encounter.
It does give the idea of the lights there, but the brightness of the light, it gives a good impression, except that the colour doesn't seem right.
Kelly's account starts in August 1993.
My husband and I were driving up to my girlfriend's place in Monbulk, which is in the Dandenong Mountains. We were driving on Belgrave-Hallam Road, and it was just on dusk. I saw what I thought was round orange lights in the field. It looked unusual to me.
Later that night, retracing their route home, Kelly noticed something else unusual.
It's about a kilometre or so in front of us, about twice the height of the treetops. We could see this object, which at first I thought was a blimp. It had the shape of a blimp, but it was light. As we got closer to it, the light seemed to sort of separate, and it was actually these a row of round lights, and they were orange. It appeared like there was silhouettes standing in these round orange circles, like people, but you could only see the black outline. Well, I just said to my husband, look, there's people in there. And the minute I said that, it shot off to the left of us. Within 1 or 2 seconds, it was gone completely. About a kilometre or two further down the road, as we kept driving, I came across at least what I thought was a screen or a wall of light across the road. And my heart started racing and the adrenaline was sort of pumping through my body, and I'm thinking, we've just seen this back down there, we're in for, a close encounter. Then the next instant, nothing. We seem to have actually covered a fair distance that I don't even remember covering. It might have been possibly close to a kilometre that I don't remember actually travelling. There was no light. There was nothing blocking the road.
Kelly says it wasn't until weeks later she remembered actually getting out of the car that night.
And I saw that there was another car that had pulled up 100 metres down the road. Then I walked around the front of the car to where my husband was standing on the other side, and we started walking across the road together. As we were walking across the road, I looked down and I saw that the other people were getting out the car and starting to walk as well. So I was quite happy that there was other people there who were seeing the same thing that we were. And we walked up along here to where the fence is. Right out in front of us is this huge craft.
I was totally awestruck. It was science fiction coming to life. There wasn't any fear then. It was just all total awe. We stood here, I guess side by side, my husband and I, for about 30 to 45 seconds. Then this tall dark being just appeared in front of the craft, and he was followed by
about another 7 or 8 that appeared straight behind him.
I felt this energy go through me. It's like nothing I've ever experienced before in my life. It was like some sort of low-level frequency that came in waves, but it was so dense that I could actually physically feel it going through my body. And that feeling absolutely terrified me. It was like, I can't even explain the horror that I felt just feeling this. And I began screaming. The minute I did, the eyes on these things lit up and they came charging across the field.
Halfway across, they split up into 2 groups. Some headed off down there and the rest came directly towards us. I felt this blow to my stomach, and the next thing you know, I'm back here somewhere on the grass. It literally lifted me off of my feet. And I thought I was going to die. I thought if I don't get up now, I'm going to pass out and I'm going to die. I'm not going to come back to consciousness, you know. So I pulled myself up into a sitting position, and when I sat up, I couldn't see anything, and it was like there was just black in front of my eyes. I want you to try stretching it down a little bit as well.
Kelly is not the only one who saw these images that night. For the first time ever, independent witnesses have given the same account of a close encounter. Even though Kelly has never met Jane, Glenda and Bill from the other car she saw, she has seen the sketches they drew for UFO researchers.
They've drawn the same circles of light around the top of the craft with these blue lines coming down, ending in a semicircle on the ground. They've actually also drawn a tripod underneath, which was something I didn't see that night. It becomes very clear then that we were all looking at the same thing and that it wasn't your average saucer-shaped craft. And basically, the second party were able to draw sketches of the beings very similar to the ones that I had, and they're not your usual little grey things that are, you know, media propaganda. I found a small red-coloured equilateral triangle underneath my navel, which I guess in reality provoked only a minor curiosity at the time. It was oddly geometric, and I did wonder, you know, how something like that could get on me that looked like a burn without me feeling it.
At UFO conferences, where Kelly is now a keynote speaker, she adds strength to her own story by showing photographs of physical marks left on one of the other women.
We're all left with triangular marks under our navels, but the ones that were marks that were actually photographed, the first one came from Glenda, which is it's a series of 3 small red dots along the inner thigh, and both Jane and Glenda were marked with these dots. I wasn't. Glenda had a ligature mark around her ankle, which is quite severe bruising. It looked like she'd been strapped down to something.
UFO researchers have also reported finding physical traces at the site where all witnesses said the encounter happened, particularly in relation to where the craft landed.
Inside that semicircle was actually a triangular formation of 3 points spaced 6 metres apart, which correspond with the tripod that was drawn underneath the girl's craft.
To this day, Kelly still doesn't know exactly what happened to her that night.
Tried a little bit.
Her most vivid memory is the fear that she felt.
That's very good. It's finally come out to what I'm looking for. And I think a lot of people, you know, might have experienced the fear in a nightmare where you're being chased or something like that, and it's a terror that you feel that, you know, sometimes can wake you up or whatever, but it's absolutely horrifying when you're dreaming it. And that's exactly what I was feeling while I was totally awake. That sort of terror, actually having to feel it while you're conscious and physically awake and feel it as a reality, is like a living nightmare, like a nightmare had come to life.
We've moved out onto 138 acres. We don't have electricity. We use all our own fuel, like for both our fires. We're in the process of trying to become self-sufficient as far as food's concerned. We just lead just a very different lifestyle.
Denise Borrett says it's her encounters with strange beings that have helped her make the decision to live this way.
There's one of our missing. I believe at the moment that they're giving us quite a dire warning about what's happening to the planet and what's going to happen to us unless we actually wake up to what we're actually doing. They seem to open parts of your mind that aren't open before, and or they help you to do that. I don't know, but all I know is that I'm a very changed person since I've had my experience.
Well, lifestyle changes you'd think shouldn't happen to people if these things aren't physically occurring. So I guess it's a little piece of evidence to suggest that something really startling and extraordinary must have happened to a person because of the changes that they do go through.
Denise says her visitors have the ability to render her husband unconscious, so he never actually experiences the aliens, but he does have physical scars.
Well, I know I've got a lot of scars on my body, and I know basically where they all came from, but this one, in that particular place, I've got no idea. I just woke up one morning and I happened to comment to her, so I've got this funny little mark on my arm, and she had a look and she had one in exactly the same place because she said she could remember it happening.
And I can actually remember them cutting it. I can remember it was like a little spatula or whatever. But again, there was no pain or anything, and the next day mine had completely healed up, whereas Les's had actually scarred.
And I thought, well, they're in identical spots and they're identical size, so obviously something was going on.
People who've had multiple abduction experiences very often get very concerned about the environment. They get very concerned about healthy lifestyles. They get very interested in the possibility of life elsewhere. They get very interested in promoting the message that there's something actually going on.
If things do go haywire on the planet, like I believe they will, that we at least will be able to feed ourselves and not have to rely on man-made energy to keep ourselves going.
It's pretty obvious that the people that had these experiences are convinced there's more to what's out there than most of us realise. They're also the first to admit that their stories could be hard to accept.
Most of what is released as UFO footage is really stuff that the government has thrown out there and wants to throw out there to throw people off the track. Because I think if people knew what was the truth, that it would discredit the government, and their whole perception of reality would have to shift and change, and they would no longer hold the power that they do as, you know, the military-industrial complex that it is today.
Could UFO evidence like this and people's testimony from Hawaii bring the government to finally release and give disclosure?
The red herring is like when there's a whole bunch of things thrown out there. Maybe there's 20 things thrown out, but only one is real. The other ones are designed to either prove it to be fake, so that you don't believe the one that is real, or are designed to confuse and manipulate and control.
Much of what the government has shown is to really cause us to ask questions. Is there always something out there? They've caused so much chaos within the whole community, the global community. It's protect what they've got. And all the incidents that have occurred here in the United States and all over, they have used all the technology. And basically the government and those other companies in the world have protected their sources. And we know this. And now it's coming up to the truth, and the truth will be heard.
Yeah, so that day I had my video camera and I was in my kitchen. Yeah, my cousin Johnny was just screaming, saying, "Oh, come out!" I was like, so he came over here, and then right there, you can see him in the background. Yeah, I've been seeing lights in the sky since I was a little kid. You know, maybe we're out here isolated, out in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, we went out there. It looked metallic, shiny. You know, it was a real windy day, I remember. It was big. It was like 15, 20 feet, like the size of my truck. It was huge. It was just sitting there for like 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, I've been seeing lights in the sky since I was a little kid. You know, maybe we're out here isolated, out in the middle of the ocean, Pacific Ocean. Maybe, you know, the UFOs like coming to Hawaii because we're so isolated out here, you know. Maybe they love it. Who knows? So I'll come out every night. Before I go sleep, I look at the stars with my camera to see if I can capture anything. And this one night I was out here, I looked in the sky and I was like, no, that's not no star. It was moving, it was creating this shape. I looked up and I said, it looked like a bright cross. So I was like, no, that's not no star, no satellite. It doesn't move like that and make like a shape in the sky. So I just kept filming. Was well lit, you know, the nice moon in the sky. There's no other stars in the sky, so except these bright orb looking lights shaped like a cross. Was the atmosphere would look like it was in our atmosphere, not in the sky. You know, it was amazing. I live 4 miles away from a special place, Waipio, Valley of the Kings, a very sacred place, sacred burial grounds. You know, Waipio is special to the Hawaiians. Well, I just could continue to keep my eyes in the sky. I'll always have my camera out, and hopefully one day I'll have the answers to what's going on in the skies over Hawaii. Orlando Smith, a musician, captures something amazing over the Hamakua coast. A military C-17 transport tracked by an unknown object.
You know, I've been living in Hawaii for 20 years, about 22 years actually. And I came here originally because of the beauty of the natural landscape. There's a lot of people, I have a lot of friends that have told me countless stories about things that they've seen, experiences and stuff. And, you know, I never really, I can't say that I believe or disbelieve. I have never really seen anything like this that has really been so unidentifiable. Just, I don't know what the heck is going on there. So I came up here to get some shots of the pink church, and I look to the coast and I see this big military transport, kind of looked like a C-17 or something like that. A huge jet. I get some shots of the jet. I start videoing the jet, you know, just out of curiosity or something. And an object like the size of a minivan or something flies up behind the jet, and I'm shooting the jet, and I see this thing fly right in.
With steady hands and calm nerves, Orlando Smith captured something amazing over the Hamakua coast. What is this object tracking the C-17? With video evidence like this, it leaves one to wonder, are we alone?
If you want to really know what the truth is, there's a lot of things that have been declassified now. And so you can write and you can find them out. And ask questions. And don't just take the pat answers as truth. You know, seek them out. And in your meditation and your prayers, we all have this inner knowingness of what is right and what is wrong. We're born with it. Just like the birds are born with a homing device that they can follow north and they can migrate. We have an internal compass which tells us what is truth and what is not. And listen to that internal compass. Again, most of what they're going to throw out there isn't true. And it's designed to throw you off the track. But if you listen inside and you can see the signs of what is true and you see things happen to you, perhaps there's a knowingness that you have and you find it to be true, and all these dots are pointing the way to a certain direction in your life. Listen to that. That internal barometer inside of you is going to really, it'll put you on the right path.
Orlando explains on how he was on the right path, capturing his UFO.
So I kept filming the jet and the object as I was following it across the horizon, and as I zoomed in, I was like trying to figure out, what is this object? I couldn't explain what it was. How could something have flown right up to the jet and then be like almost attached to the jet, like it was gonna dock to the jet or something like that? I was like, is this some kind of crazy maneuver where something is approaching the military transport and gonna dock like in the movies or something like that? I was like, what is this thing? So then as I zoomed in, I'm thinking maybe it was a parachute or something that got tangled up, and then somehow they were gonna bring it in, because it was approaching the thing from the back. It wasn't like going away from the vehicle. So I was like, what could possibly be approaching the vehicle that close? And then so when I started zooming in, you could see there's no parachute, there's no cables, there's no nothing. All you see is a big metallic object like the size of a minivan. The crazy thing is the shot's only 26 seconds. And it seemed like I was shooting forever as I was following the thing across the horizon. And I still don't know what that other vehicle was, but I knew when I was getting this shot that this is some crazy thing happening here, some military related. So I'm still thinking it's got to be like some kind of military refueling transport, you know. But when I zoomed in, you can see there's no lines, there's no cables, there's no gas refueling line, there's no lines pulling the thing. I mean, as far as you can see, and I zoomed it in all the way, and it's like, the resolution is incredible. It's only 26-second shot, I lost it right across the horizon, like right out there. It was a beautiful day that day too, unlike today, which is totally overcast, but that day it was a spectacular day, perfect day in paradise. No clouds in the sky. I feel like I just really lucked out. I had all my gear, I was all set up.
The reason why the ships come to Hawaii is, one of the things is that they remove some of the sacred waters that are here. Lots of the planets do not have water. And so they take the water and take it to their sites. in other planets or galaxies. And this is one of the reasons that it's so important that we keep this Earth in balance, and it has to be cared for. It is that sacred.
There are a lot of military reservations on the Big Island, right on top of Mauna Kea, Puakaloa training area. And you know, there's a high concentration of military activity on the island that may be a factor. I never leave home without my camera after this event. I mean, I'm always looking now because I'm starting to think that a lot of these crazy stories that I've heard from friends around here, there may be some truth to some of them.
It is no secret that the military government and the U.S. have weapons and technology they want to keep secret. Will truth ever be revealed in regards to UFOs?
The U.S. government is still going to hold up to what they have. And it's not necessary for us to go out and ask the government. It is necessary for us as a people living on this earth. We are in control of what we see and what we believe. If we believe that this is happening, and it is happening, well, this is occurring, and the people got to now see the presence of their star family. It's all going to happen. A lot of the people are going to see the technology and receive it, and they're going to use it to better mankind, to balance this earth, and to do the different things that's necessary to make the changes and the shift towards balance.
Pyramids throughout the world have been among us for thousands of years. We're here in the South Pacific. My name's Blake Cousins, and what lies behind me may be more evidence of ancient pyramids right here in the South Pacific. This is a massive structure. You could really appreciate the work put into this monument. Some of these stones are massive, weighing up to 300 to 400 pounds. And as you follow me along here, you could tell and see this wall just stretch for about a whole football field. This is absolutely amazing. Pyramids were built to worship their gods in the heavens. Could it be that the Hawaiians believed in outer space beings from other worlds? It is said in history this massive structure was built in a day, with over 10,000 Hawaiians carrying stone to stone, man to man, to build this massive structure. And we've just seen a little peek of what is actually out there. We're here now at the base of the pyramid, from the top to the bottom, and just look at the mass and length of the work that was put into this massive structure here. If you could appreciate, like me, the theory of ancient astronauts, this theoretically could be a sign from the gods. The mystery of pyramids here in the South Pacific scientifically has not been supported, but with evidence like this, how could it be denied? My name's Blake Cousins, and we'll see you again at Third Phase of Moon.
In the small, quaint town of Honoka'a on the Hamakua coast lives Dr. Ton Keeney, also owner of the Honoka'a People's Theater. He explains an extraordinary sighting he had on the island of Maui.
I am Dr. Ton Keeney. I am a physician in Honoka'a on the Big Island of Hawaii. I've been in practice in Honoka'a for 35 years. Well, it was certainly my only UFO encounter that I'm aware of, at least. And in order to do that, I'll have to, I think, give you some preface. I've actually told this story a few times over the intervening 35 years because the events I'm going to tell you about occurred 35 years ago. And but I think, you know, some of the preface is important to actually understanding, you know, why I have attached the significance I have to what I saw. So this was in 1976, I suppose late summer. I had just finished residency in Queen's Hospital in Honolulu, and I had 6 months of time before I would eventually take a job here in Hamakua as physician at the Hamakua Health Center. And I was just traveling around the island. I spent quite a bit of time in Maui. I had a little MG over there that, but I didn't have a house to stay in, so I was just traveling around. My routine was to go up to the summit of Haleakala and hike down into the crater, and or maybe hike down one side or the other, and back and forth. I just would go down and then go back up again and do it all again. So I think you have to understand how quiet it is in the crater, because I think that's part of the story here. You know, I remember sitting on a rock at the top of Sliding Sands Trail, which is the trail down into Haleakala, and watching a lone hiker hike down the trail and listening to the crunch of his footsteps as he was descending. After some time, I noticed that the crunch of those footsteps, although receding, I was still able to hear them when the foot changed to the other foot, and then the crunch changed back again to the same foot that he had started with. Now, I'm not sure I can compute it accurately, but I think that that probably means I was hearing this gentleman's footsteps and he was probably about half a mile away, maybe a quarter of a mile at least. So, very quiet environment. I also remember once hearing the beating of wings and then looking around to see a bird flying pretty far off in the distance. That's something that I had never experienced before. All of these are just you know, little stories to I think demonstrate just how quiet it is in the crater, and the importance of that is that I was staying in the crater one evening. There are cabins there. Sometimes I would be lucky enough to get into a cabin, but most of the time I would just sleep outside with a tent or sleeping bag. And I had climbed the wall of the crater just a ways above Holua Cabin, and so I was probably 100 feet off the ground, maybe 200 feet off the higher than the surface of the crater, and then I stayed there for a while. In fact, after sunset. It's so beautiful. And, you know, some scenes are just hard to leave. But in the midst of all that beauty and stillness, on the rim, over the rim of the crater, and I think it was beyond Sliding Sands Trail, but over the rim of the crater, I saw two lights that actually emerged up over the rim and then came down and actually seemed as if they were flying inside the crater itself, into you know, below the level of the rim of the crater. And the The crater is about 7 miles across, so it's a very big open space. You know, in those days, and I guess subsequently, I have heard that there has been a number of UFO sightings over Haleakala, and but it's just not something I pay much attention to. Like I said, I actually have had very little time to ponder those things over the subsequent years. And first of all, I can see it in my mind right now, of course, because it was a fascinating thing to me. Basically, it looked like two headlights. And again, they rose above the rim of the crater. And I would have guessed, if I haven't actually ever thought about it, but I would have imagined something like 300, 400, 500 yards above the rim of the crater. And then they came down into, within the rim. And those two headlights, again, that would be the best I could say. I couldn't see a body that was holding these two lights together, but I'm sure there must have been, because they were in perfect unison, and they went across the crater. Again, it's about 7 miles across, and they disappeared into a cloud bank that was coming up out of Kaupo Gap. Kaupo Gap is kind of where, you know, millions of years ago, lava poured out of the crater into down the, I believe, Kipahulu side of Maui. And the one thing that was most interesting about that is that through all of and the reason I told you about the bird flapping its wings and about following the hiker down the trail, is that there was no sound whatsoever, you know, as these lights flew across and down into the crater and across the crater. And that was the thing that most impressed me, you know, and kept me wondering for all of these years, occasionally, well, what was that? What do I believe? You know, the truth is, as a result of that and as a result of some people's stories that I've heard, I have a very open mind about these things could be, you know, what? Alien spacecraft? I have no idea. But at least I'm open to the possibility that it's not something that is explainable by the things that, you know, my culture has taught me.
All right, Reynolds, this is some of the video that I thought you'd be interested in taking a look at. This was shot over the Pacific, and what it shows is some kind of structure in the clouds. Is this similar to the UFO that you explained to me that you saw in Nevada?
Yes, and these are type of UFOs that are what they call chatna. This is a chatna type of UFO. The chatna is comes from the faraway galaxy, and what happens is that what they're doing is observation, and the reason for the observation is that many places are being checked out for not only what the people are doing, but just observe them during this time and period as the transition occurs.
All right, Reynolds, I want you to take a look at this video. It was apparently shot over Maui.
And you know, from what I see here is that this video indicates to me that this sighting of a UFO was people that came from the light. They indicated this and showing this that there is a connection between us and the star family.
You know, people talk about the Galactic Federation of Lights. Is this what they're referring to?
That is what they are referring to, because Maui is a very strategic area for UFOs in entering and exit.
People speak of interdimensional beings as well. Is there kind of a correlation between the two?
Yes, because of the fact that we are together We are the beings. We are here already. We don't have to wait for no one else. This is the fact that we are the ones that have been waiting for each other. And now we're coming together. And this intergalactic beings is us. We're here already.
Hey Reynolds, there's one more video I want you to take a look at.
Sure.
We at Third Phase of Moon receive videos from around the world of many UFOs, and they come in amazing shapes and sizes. The viewers say at home that this resembles some kind of crucifix. Can you explain a little further on what you think this could be?
This is a type of ship they call a Hanna, which is the ship that takes in water. They travel throughout the places to receive the sacred waters. So you see 4 of it, and it moves in different directions to receive water from falls, ocean, sides, whatever it may be, to pick up the sacred water and take it to different planets. These are, because there's no water on other planets, this ship is very important. It takes it back to the mothership who delivers it up to the planets.
Absolutely fantastic. If our viewers back at home wanted to get in touch with you in regards to spirituality and higher being, how would they do so?
Please contact me by my email, and it's located at the bottom of this video. Mahalo.
A new resident of Hawaii from Arizona comes to Hilo Bay and finds himself in the middle of an amazing encounter.
I'm Nick Pierce. I'm 23. I'm from Arizona. Just moved to Hawaii. I have not seen UFOs before since being here. That's about it. I believe in UFOs, though, definitely, for sure, that they exist. Oh, it totally looked like, in my opinion, it looked like a ship mast. Just kind of all lined up like that, but it wasn't a ship mast. It looked like 3 planes, so like a big plane and 2 smaller planes, like that. So I pulled over to the right on the side of the road there after seeing these bright lights, and I kind of felt kind of blessed. I'm like, here's something I gotta see. So started filming it and everything, and just looking at these really bright lights just reflecting off the water and totally vivid. Me and there's like maybe like 20 other people watching the same phenomenon, and it was definitely mind-blowing. Everybody just sitting there and just totally awestruck by this vivid bright light. And it just totally looked like a ship mast. I mean, we're in Hilo Bay, mind you, so it could have been a ship, could have been a military drone. I really don't know what it was, but it was definitely something. And I don't know, just kind of how it panned out, like I said, kind of like straight like that, and it also just kind of lined up like totally horizontal, and it was just so vivid, definitely. Definitely my friends, when I showed them the video, they didn't really believe me. They kind of said, oh, aliens don't exist, or UFOs don't exist. I said, no, I didn't see a UFO. I just saw a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, captured it on camera, and showed them something different, gave them something to think about. Like I said, most of my friends, they didn't really believe. I didn't really believe it either, but I'm not calling it a UFO or anything. I just saw something special. That's all I saw. Yeah, it was totally just like when the light first happened, when I first saw it, there weren't a lot of people there, so I pull up, and then behind me there was like 5 or 6 cars. They all pulled us all the same way too. They all just stopped, and they're just like totally just like awestruck. It was just this mass hysteria. I'm clicking everything, and everybody's coming in, screaming and hollering, pulling out their cameras, and they just want to get a picture of the lights. They want to see what the lights are and everything, and it was just totally mass hysteria. Everybody's like, come to the light, come to the light. And once they saw the light, they're just like sitting there just totally just, like I said, awestruck. Definitely since I've been here in Hawaii, I've definitely, noticed some things. In Arizona, the sky is not so clear. You can't really, it's not really, I haven't seen any sightings in Arizona, not at all. Not met anybody who ever seen anything like that before. But since I moved here in Hawaii, the skies are clear. And I could definitely, I can look up at the sky now and definitely notice that there's going to be something up there. I've gotten in contact with some people that, have seen things like that before, hundreds of sightings. And, you see it on Facebook, YouTube, Google UFOs. You get hundreds of sightings. And on the Big Island, right here, I'm going to always have this ready. That way I can capture them extra special moments. And, I see in the sky, whether they be lights, UFOs, whatever the case may be, I'm gonna capture those moments, and I'm gonna share them with everybody that I know. That way I can give them a different perspective and make them think about something extraordinary.
We receive videos from around the world in regards to UFO phenomena. Now, today and this week, we're going to go over a special 5-step program on how to capture UFOs properly. Now let's get to step 1 right now. Step 1, keep it cool. When you see something strange and unusual in the sky for the first time, it can get exciting. But just remember your surroundings, time and place, and then proceed to step 2. Step 2, keep it steady. Whether you have an HD camera or a small iPhone, it's always important to stabilize on the object. Whether you have to go down on your knee and just stabilize, that's what it takes, get the shot. Remember, steady shots equals great video. For example, this is a very shaky shot in comparison to a steady shot like this. Step 3, perspective. Whether an object is against a black or blue sky, it's very important to get some kind of material object in the foreground or background. A building, street lights perhaps. The more information and material we get to see within the video gives us more of a perspective on how large this craft or crafts could be. Zooming in and zooming out at times on the object is very helpful, and pans every once in a while. Now on to step 4. Step 4, focus. One of the largest complaints we get here at Third Phase of Moon is blurry footage. It's very important to set your camera off from the auto-focusing mechanism. When you're filming a UFO for the first time, you don't need your camera trying to help you out.
Autofocus sucks so bad, dude.
Blurry images always seem to have a problem with viewers. If you want to get a good UFO shot, keep it in focus like this. It's best to set your camera on infinity for best results. Now on to step 5. Now on to step 5 and the most important step. When you've captured something amazing, it could be possible smoking gun footage. Make a backup of the copy immediately, then upload it to YouTube. If you've captured anything amazing in regards to UFOs after these 5 steps, contact us at Third Phase of Moon via Skype or Facebook. My name's Blake Cousins, and we'll see you again next time.